Welcome everyone to the second episode of the Specs Appeal with Maddie and Steph podcast. Or Specs Appeal podcast with Maddie and Steph? I don't know. We haven't really figured it all out yet. But thank you for listening. And how are you doing today, Maddie?
I'm doing great. How are you, Steph?
I'm doing pretty good. It's not quite cold enough to be like winter, so I'm enjoying these last few days of summer.
I am right there with you.
I know. It's crazy. Anyways, so let's get on to our main topic of the day, which is the 4 questions every optician should be asking their patients. So when I say that, I mean when they come out from the doctor, what are the first things that you ask the patient before you start talking about frames or lenses?
And this is just really going to help you fulfill their prescription to their needs. We don't want to really sell, even though we are selling, but we really want to make sure the patient doesn't feel like you're selling. We want to make sure you're prescribing them what they need. And the doctor may have already done that, but on your end, once they come out, you are really the lens expert. You are the frame expert. So these few questions are really going to just help narrow down what you think you should be prescribing your patients.
Because there's a lot of options out there.
Lots.
So how do you know which ones to give which people? And it's asking questions. The biggest thing I think when it comes to sales is asking questions. So we've come up with 4 questions that we think are really helpful in helping to narrow down those choices. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So the first question that we have here is, what were they wearing before? Now this may be a question you're asking yourself because, as I mentioned before, patients don't necessarily know. So if you ask them what type of lens they're wearing, they may come out with the transitions lens. And we all know when patients says that, they tend to mean progressive. So it's
I know whenever anybody said transitions, and I'd be like, do you mean they turn like sunglasses outside? Because yeah, that's definitely a common misconception.
So anyways, if they don't, you may already know they're a returning patient, or if they're a new patient, you really want to know what they were in before. How you check that if they don't know, or if they just give you the general progressive. That's important to know, so you know that you're not putting them in a single vision or an occupational or a bifocal or anything like that. But really knowing the brand and the design of that progressive lens can be very crucial to your patient. And one way to do that is by looking at the identifying marks on the lens. All progressive lenses on...
And anti-fatigue lenses.
Oh, yes. And digital single vision lenses.
Yeah, there's a lot, yeah.
Most lenses these days.
Pretty much everything. Never mind.
Has these identifying marks on the lenses. They'll have a little symbol. Most have like a circle with a symbol underneath.
Usually each brand has a different kind of symbol
and
for their
nasal
brand.
marking will have their material, and the outer marking will have their ad power on there if it is a progressive. So there's a couple different things to look at on there. But there's this great book, or now it's online, the Progressive Identifier. And you want to look for that symbol. And from what you see in the lens, and what I always did was I drew it out on a Post-it, just because sometimes there's like an extra line, or the line's on top, or the symbol, the line's on the bottom. So draw it out, then go online and search the Progressive Identifier and try and find at least the brand of the lens that they're wearing. But it's also important to see what their the design was, or their fitting height. I think is really important, the minimum fitting height on that lens.
Yeah, and I think, too, if you can't find, because I know the one online is older, so anything newer lenses, if you can't find it on there, you could always reach out to, the brand's always going to look the same, so you'd always reach out to the brand rep and ask if they have a copy of the different markings, so that you can kind of narrow it down that way, too.
Another way to utilize your brand reps.
Utilizing brand reps, for sure.
Is there anything you want to add to what they were wearing before?
No, I feel like our first 2 questions kind of go hand in hand. So I'll just roll into the next question. And it's, what do you like or not like about your current glasses? And I think that's where it's important to know what they're in. Especially what's great about the lens identifier is that it'll tell you, fitting heights or, or it'll give you a little more details about the lens, and that way you can either match or try to change the things that they don't like about it. Like, for example, if they have the complaint, well, yeah, but I have to tilt too far down to get into the reading. They may want a lens that has the word short in it, maybe with a shorter corridor, to bring up that reading just a little bit more. Or if they really love what they have, you can just put them in the same thing they were wearing before, and they're going to have an easier time adapting because you're not changing the design at all. So I think kind of knowing what they're wearing before and what they like and don't like, kind of work hand in hand together, but they're definitely two super important questions to ask, because we can kind of get a starting point, because how many lenses are there? There's like hundreds of lenses out there. Thousands, I don't have no idea, a lot. I've seen that VSP and IMED formulary, and it's bonkers. But, being able to, how do you choose what to give your patient? And the starting point is always, what were they in before? How has their prescription changed? What do they not like and like about their lenses currently? And then you can kind of roll from there, and it makes the process go a lot smoother.
And it's also something your patient will notice, that you are asking questions and that you really do care about what you're giving them, and you're not really trying to sell them. You're trying to give them something they need.
Because we are, yes, we are selling a product, but I usually look at it as we're prescribing a medical device. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important to make it seem that way. I always talk about, I've always talked about with patients, is your prescription is a prescription. It's just like a prescription for, a drug. I think we have to kind of change that mindset as far as we're prescribing something. We're not just selling something. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it is kind of a weird industry where it's kind of like one and the same in a weird way. But I think we have to try to change that mindset too. So I don't know. That was a weird off topic. Totally. I'm sorry. I went totally out on that one.
It's all good. This is why we're here, to get all our ideas out for the world to hear.
Or the two listeners, which is me and Maddie.
Could be that too.
Yeah.
Third question that we think is important to ask your patient is, when do you wear your glasses the most? So this could be something the doctor may have discussed with them, but it's something that you want to ask too, because they might be wearing a single vision lens for the computer currently, but then the doctor comes out with a multifocal prescription. Mm-hmm. So you have to know, are they going to need an everyday progressive? Are they going to need an occupational progressive? So it's really important to know, I think, when they're wearing their glasses, not only for add-ons too. I think that's another thing that you can discuss at that point. But you'll know the type of progressive or the type of lens to prescribe. You could also kind of bridge that into, if they're wearing them outside, but they don't like that they don't get dark, you can get into sunglasses and things like that. So I think just knowing when they're wearing their glasses can tell you a lot about what they need them for and the type of the design that they should choose.
No, I agree with everything. Sweet. I concur with everything you just said.
Our last and final question is,
I think this is a good way of bringing up second pair, because I think second pair is really important, which is, what are you using for the computer or outside for sun protection? So I think, especially for sunglasses, it's really important to protect from UV. And especially in California, it's crazy. It's sunny 360 days of the year. So sun protection is really important. So we always want to be talking about an additional pair of polarized lenses. Or if you can't quite get that, then at least talk about photochromic lenses.
Yeah, like I mentioned, just knowing when they're wearing them and what they're wearing, and if they even have them. I love telling my patients that when I got a pair of prescription sunglasses, how it changed my life. And it really did. Going from contacts to just regular glasses and then getting a pair of prescription sunglasses really did kind of changed how I saw the world, as corny as it is. But that's what I love about this. We really are in the industry of seeing is believing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of corny, but
you brought up another interesting point is with contacts. So even if a patient buys contacts, I mean, one, they should have an additional pair of backup glasses. Mm-hmm. But they should also, you could also take the Plano sunglass route as far as polarized lenses, you know, you're still wanting to protect their eyes from the sun without, you know, you don't have to put a prescription because they're wearing the contacts. So that's another interesting angle to take.
Thank you.
Also, in addition to sunglasses, is computer or occupational lenses. Like, what are they using on the computer? Because we know computer distance is not the same as reading. So if they're using reading glasses, those aren't really going to help as much on the computer. So talking about, you know, how many hours a day you're on the computer and what, you know, I think an occupational lens is a great second pair option as well. I know for me, typically, if there are opticians in my offices wearing my product, it's almost always an occupational lens. So those are a huge market, I think, as far as second pair sales. You know, we just got to really stress, don't drive with them on.
I 100% agree with that. My opticians are always wearing that occupational lens. Because it works, and it's important to... We can go on a whole other bit about occupationals, honestly.
Yeah, sure.
So, I'll save that for another day. But to review those 4 questions, it would be, what were they wearing before? What do you like or not like about your current glasses? When do you wear your glasses the most? And what are you using for computer or outside sun protection? And
I was going to say one more thing about the last question is finding out if they have additional pairs of glasses. They may, if they're just updating, they may want to update their sunglasses as well. So, you know, finding out. And even if they're used to having 2 pairs of glasses, you know, they're still going to want to update that prescription in both pairs. So it's important to find out basically how many pairs of glasses they wear during a day too.
Yeah, they currently are wearing.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to go home and be like, oh, shoot, I didn't update my sunglasses. And they see better in one pair and not in the other. Anywho. Okay, cool. Well, that was fun. I hope you guys took a little bit from that. And we'll be back with our next segment.
All right, so it is now time for everyone's favorite segment, the Reddit question of the week.
And I do want to say, Steph picks these out, and I don't even know them, so she does like to throw them at me. So I might need a minute to think. But you guys can think along with me.
Okay, so today's question comes from the Glasses subreddit, and it's, why do people suggest going to an optician to get your glasses? And the question is, I guess it is a question. I've been wearing glasses for the past 15 years. I've had different doctors, insurance providers, etc. I literally just try on a ton of frames until I can find the most flattering, pay, and get told to pick my frames up in a week. I've been trying to bite the bullet in buying frames online and keep seeing people saying not to. How come?
Because the real answer, I don't think I can say. There's quite a few things, I think, why people should not go online and should go to an optician. One, if they went online, they would have never got to meet me and Steph. We were great as opticians. But playing on that, the customer service. You know, online, you're talking to a computer, and as great as that is, everyone loves shopping online. Everyone knows Amazon. But you don't get that personal customer experience that you would get with a real person. And I think that's something that we're realizing as a whole, as a world, is we're lacking now. So we're trying to bring that back in. But also the quality of your glasses, lenses specifically, I would say are not...
Well, and frames, they suck. I mean...
Well,
Can I say
yeah.
that?
Yeah, you can.
I have broken a few different internet frames because they came in for adjustments, so I learned my lesson.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, but the quality absolutely is because Steph has this great video about measurements, and the measurements you get in an optician's office or optical office is completely different than what you're going to get online, and you need those measurements to customize the frame.
Well, and you can't even take an OC height.
Yeah.
Even on single vision lenses, like you don't have the frame to try on. So how do you measure?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That'd be a good experiment. We should try that.
We should.
That's a good one. I'll jot that down.
But, I mean, you can see how many issues we're already just coming up with ordering things online. Other than that, I mean, don't do it. Go to your optician. That's all I have to say. Maybe we can do a segment one week about what to say to your patient when they tell you they're going to go online.
I'll just take my prescription, thanks.
Yeah.
And then they call a week later and they get mad because they don't have their PD.
That usually happens.
That a lot happens. So here's the thing I've learned recently. I read several articles about independent bookstores. And there has been, oh my God, I already forgot what the amount was. It was like a 29% increase of independent bookstores in the past like 5 or 6 years because people were getting sick of buying books online. There's something very tangible about going in and talking to somebody and getting recommendations for books and just having that personal experience. And I think too, because we do so much digital communicating that, you know, people are starting to really kind of crave that like human interaction. Not everybody, but I think a lot of people are. And coming in to sit with an expert in, you know, how to fit glasses and pick out the right lenses. I mean, going through these Reddit questions, so many of them are like, what does my prescription mean? And my whole thought is like, oh my gosh, if they had just come into my shop, like I would have easily been able to explain this in a way that they understand. But instead, you know, they're deciding to go online. And I think having that human interaction is really important. Plus, I mean, it's going to be more accurate. Plus, also think if something goes wrong with online glasses, what do? You can't return them.
Yeah, there's no one there to make that slight adjustment.
Do you just throw them away? Like, what do you do with them?
I don't know. We'll have to experiment.
I know. I'm curious now.
Yeah.
The only problem is I had LASIK like 4 years ago, so I really don't have a prescription, so she's going to have to be organic.
Yeah. And I'm single vision.
That's true. We should order a progressive and see what that looks like.
That'll be fun.
How do they even do a sig height? I don't know. It's like a whole other world. I have no idea how it works.
Maybe we'll be able to actually... This is the only video I will be in. So you guys can get the full experience of how I order glasses online. I think that'll be fun. I think that's definitely something we should do.
We should try it out. And I think, I mean, for me personally, I like to try stuff like that because then I can say, well, I did this and it didn't work out, you know. Otherwise,
so
why would they believe you?
They can take our experience and say that they did it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And telling their patients.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're here to help you guys. Remember that.
So, moral of the story.
Don't order glasses online. And do everything in your possible that you can to have your patients not do it either.
We should definitely we'll do an additional segment on how to overcome the objection of somebody wanting to order glasses online. That's a great one.
Something I was just in an
Going
office.
more in depth about it.
Yeah, it's just an office the other day, and the patient said that, and so it's way more common, I think, now.
For sure.
It's us millennials, you know.
Well, wait till those millennials are presbyopic. Then what are they gonna do?
Gosh, we can open this whole chest.
All right, let's end this segment now.
Alrighty, so for our sales tip of the week is going to be using analogies. I have the analogy queen here with me, Steph.
I like analogies, so sue me.
Take it away. How are you going to use analogies to help your patients?
Yes. I think it's pretty common that patients don't understand how lenses work. And it's easy. I mean, you could easily go into the technology and all this corridors and all the designs and stuff, but in the end, like, they don't know what you're talking about. So I always found that using analogies was probably the easiest way to convey that message. And I have a few different ones that I like to use. My usual go-to is if you relate lenses to cell phones. So using a non-digital lens is like using a flip phone. And then using a digital lens is more like using an iPhone 10. So it's going to be more customized, especially if it's a compensated lens. But putting it kind of in that perspective, kind of what goes in hand with that too is I like to go through and know the year that a lot of different lenses came out. And, you know, if there's a lens that came out in 2002, that was before the iPhone even came out. So, you know, you can say, like, do you want to wear a lens that came out before the iPhone?
Like, I will say there is a lens out there that I say is older than me when they're still using it, and see how that makes them feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I mean, every other industry in this world is advancing technology-wise. Like, computers only last like 3 years now.
You couldn't even go get an old iPhone if you wanted to, I feel like.
Yeah. And so, but we're still offering these lenses that are garbage?
Garbage.
No, they're not. I wouldn't say that. I'm joking. But, you know, just older technology. I also use the analogy if the iPhone or the cell phone one doesn't resonate, I do internet. So it's like you can do dial-up internet versus high-speed internet. Like, why would you go back to dial-up internet? And then another one that I had heard from a colleague was a lot of what I'm seeing now are a lot of doctors are upgrading their office equipment. You know, they've got digital phoropters, they've got the retinal imaging, they've got, you know, like an OCT, and they've got this fantastic equipment that's going to give you the most precise prescription possible. And yet, when they come out from the doctor, they're purchasing non-digital lenses. And a good analogy for that is, let's say you have Taylor Swift, who probably records on the best equipment, right? You know, everything's mixed perfectly, and the quality of the sound is perfect. But then when she puts out her album, she's putting it out on 8-track or cassette tape. And that to me is how I feel about prescriptions is, you know, you've got this perfectly most exact prescription, and then you're putting it in a non-digital, non-compensated lens. And it's kind of like, well, not that great. Yeah. So I like to use that analogy too, because I think analogies really resonate with a lot of people. I really like them. I mean, when I talk about our brand, I use a lot of analogies when I'm in offices and talking about it. So I don't know. I think it works great with patients.
And I think some of these too, you can use with patients, or if you have an optician or a doctor that doesn't want to make that switch. I think the 8-track one really makes a statement to them, because they're the ones that are buying and purchasing all this new equipment to be top of the line, to be the best. So getting them a reason to, I don't want to say switch to the dark side, because it's not the dark side, it's the bright side. But
leaving the dark side.
Leaving the dark side.
There you go.
Switch over to those digital compensated lenses that do compare to the iPhone 10, that compare to, high-speed internet. Yeah.
So that's our sales tip of the week, is use analogies at the dispensing table. Well, I would like to thank everyone for listening to this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe. They have to subscribe.
Oh, yeah. We have an Instagram account too, Specs Appeal Pod. If you want to follow us on there, we can put supplemental information.
Or just fun pictures of us.
Fun pictures.
What we do.
Sure, yeah. Of us sitting in our sweatpants recording this.
You know what? judge us. All right. Thank you guys again, and we're signing off.